Well, the security and police footage for the murder of Austin Metcalf is out and everyone's talking about it. I wanted to be done with him and was intentionally avoiding the low-hanging fruit of reacting to the Carmelo defenders, which is tough considering that it sort of evolved, or devolved, into black supremacist speech, which has nothing to do with the case and more to do with how a large number of people living in the enclaves of the USA have developed an anti-America mindset and become super racists who fetishize a totally different continent, for some reason. Weirdly, while still worshipping the white man's god. But with the new evidence showing exactly what everyone who wasn't insane already believed to be true, I think it's worth taking a look at. Another look at, anyway. To me, it looks like there's a very slight scuffle, a very brief, very slight scuffle that it's hard to see, but it looks like one high schooler shoving another high schooler on the shoulder, which is sort of what is said to be the case in the story. But there's really no way to be sure. With the quality, the angle, the lighting, you can't really tell. What we can be sure of is that all of the imagined stories don't appear to have conjured themselves into the footage. There's no lynching, no one's hiding from the pouring rain under the tents, and they just need to go into the first tent they saw, which wasn't the first tent they saw. See, the only damage Karmelo Anthony seems to have taken was when he fell over whilst fleeing the scene of his crime, which he did instinctively, like a hoodlum hearing a house alarm after bashing at a window. If you're exceedingly empathetic towards him, I suppose you could say that he was running to get help, approximately 1 second after fatally stabbing someone in a place that no medicine or surgeon could fix, I guess. And as he approaches the exit point of the field, you can see him slow down from his sprint, like Jason Quavius Bourne, attempting to move with the flow of the crowd and avoid the CIA spotting him, suggesting that his desire to seek help, if that's what you chose to believe, for Metcalf, is likely not the reason he ran, because why would he slow down? Then someone puts their arm around his shoulders and escorts him across the field back towards the tent, and Karmelo stops to animate at one point. It looks like he's jumping and doing a quick punch. I presume that he's selling a story about being attacked, as I can't imagine any other reason why an unmolested person who 30 seconds prior murdered someone in cold blood would emote like this, besides maybe throwing the knife right in front of the presumed teacher who's watching him. I don't know, it seems dumb, but then again, he was dumb from the starting line, wasn't he? Someone, a girl I think, stops them and gets in front of them. Then Karmelo weirdly bends his knees, as if a toddler doing the pee-pee dance or getting ready to jump in excitement for Christmas morning. And after a pause, Karmelo seemingly puts his hands on his head, realizing how badly he's just screwed up. Some other people are around him until a cop shows up and he peacefully surrenders. It's all incredibly surreal. As you can see, there's so many people on the field, the track, the parking lot, and so forth, going about their daily lives, totally unaware that they likely just saw someone die in their peripheral vision. And then there's the cop body cam footage, where we hear Karmelo transition from a totally normal, yes sir, no sir, while talking about his personal effects, to 30 seconds later squealing out a self-righteous complaint about, he warned him not to touch him, in which the exact same way a woman will emotionally manipulate people around her, to then 10 seconds later talking to the police again, giving them totally normal responses like, yes sir, no sir, my name's Karmelo, it's K-A-R, like, totally normal. From one moment to the next, but there's that weird cream filling in the middle where he thinks that he's a small child. I guess he's unaware that he's a man. That tactic doesn't work. And speech is the crux of what I wanted to talk about. I do try to be more than simply saying ghetto bad and hookers bad and things like that. I try to give some reason to it. I've seen nearly exclusively black people defending Karmelo. The sands are shifting, the tides are turning. Even less than a decade ago, people are acting very differently to things like this. And I don't just mean the public. Even white foreign politicians who bent the knee to racial propaganda emanating from the USA are strangely silent on this particular topic. And while many of these complaints are simply delusional fantasies of what did or didn't happen, insisting that white people were spinning a tale and that Karmelo was innocent, others took a more nuanced approach. A totally insane, untenable one. I can at least understand why someone would believe that there must be falsified evidence. I mean, after all, why the hell would Karmelo randomly stab Austin? Why would he? But these people insisting that black Americans need to be treated differently to everyone else, and if you refuse to do that, you die by their hands, and it's your fault? Ooh, it gives me a $50,000 chill down my spine. It was $50K, right? The ICE recruitment bonus? Look, I'm okay with remigration if the person in question is a malcontent. Point is, we can't have a proper civilization if black people need to be treated differently, and that is a lot of people's argument here, somehow defending Carmelo by saying they just can't be treated like a normal person. And if the problem is something as simple as comprehending the only language they know, the mother tongue of the country in which they live, if the problem is as small as speaking English, we have a big problem. A huge problem. But don't get me wrong, this isn't about dim or days. Loads of accents exist, and a lot of them sound stupid. I once failed a Scottish language accuracy test because they pronounce rain as roin, with an accent thick enough to slice and eat for breakfast. They don't pronounce it like that because they're dumb. It's just their culture, it's the way their words have evolved. I personally have an annoying voice. Sorry about that. And speak standard American with a slightly southern twang, and I find both standard and southern English to be annoying accents. Sorry about that. But people sometimes mistake heavy southern accents with black sense, like saying ain't or using double negatives, such as Carmelo when he allegedly said, "You're not gonna do nothing." This isn't a black thing. It's a southern thing, a culture thing, and it doesn't technically make you stupid, though it does allude to your education and family situation, but that's my point. Well, 2 points, really. You can read deeply into the way someone holds themselves, like speech, and people often do, to judge someone. And recently, it's been a fad to use noticing or pattern recognition as an unveiled code to talk about judging certain people. Now, obviously, you can't find someone guilty of murder based on their demeanor, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and certain enclaves are becoming a metaphorical chimney with a closed flue, desperately in need of parents who will force their children to not even excel in school, but simply pay attention to the teacher. And I say that as someone who hated school and didn't care about learning at all. Certain enclaves are also in need of schools that aren't going to allow students to pass while illiterate or to graduate whilst thinking that America fought Japan in the Civil War. That's also just a teeny tiny problem that needs to be fixed. The other point, I was talking about people conflating Southern accents with black accents. The other point is people talking about blackness and whiteness. Particularly given the racial tensions, I think describing a lot of things as whiteness or white culture is not only detrimental to creating a positive atmosphere where people actually accept the concept of change, which they're not going to do if you're exclusively negative towards them, but also, it's just wrong. It's not white culture to pronounce words correctly. It's not white culture to be respectful and courteous of the public places you're in. Women strip everywhere they can. And that happened because the standards that apply to women were allowed to fall, and now more and more women behave like children and prostitutes. Statistically, South Americans and Asians fit in extremely well with modern society, the white society. Is it white culture when a Japanese audience cleans the stadium before they leave the game? Is it white culture when a Chilean person speaks respectfully? This isn't white culture, it's just civilization, guided by wise management of government and religions. It's just a high-respect society. I think the white people found the meta build faster than others. Sure, okay, I can agree with that. But we can't take credit for every person who acts normally, or else we really will be white supremacists with a messiah complex. And I understand as everything appears to be a race war, it's very easy to find contrasts, especially one that's such as harshly stark as black and white. But if you want to elevate white culture, it's better done through describing it as good than as white. Yet so often I see people, including black people, making this comparison in a way that will antagonize, saying that white culture is good because there's no black people here, but it's not really the case. Humans have a bad habit of digging in their heels, like my border collie smushing up against the wall when I bathe her, refusing to let me clean the left side until I trick her into thinking I'm going to open the shower door, only to shut it in their face. Peaceful places aren't devoid of black people entirely. It's just that so many black people are deeply ingrained with negative cultures right now that it's hard to see the good for the bad. It's always hard to see the good for the bad because the bad is just so much more traumatic, even though there's plenty of good black people. And defining black culture, specifically the racist and violent parts, as bad does not require it to be compared to whiteness. I know that's generally how colonialism works, and if we're being honest, the American South and a couple other places in America are basically an intra-country colony as of right now. With colonialism, you show the existing populace how great their lives would be if they adopted your way of life, your government, your industry, etc., and the smartest amongst them agrees. But even if 50% of the colony's population agrees to build train stations and McDonald's, the rest will still be sharpening spears. And that is still a problem. Instead, we would be better off defining it for what it is: bad culture. I've said before and will say in the future that honesty is what made the world a high-trust environment. Now that everyone lies about everything, whether it's telling a girl dressed like a hooker that her clothing is cute, passing a child through middle or high school despite them being illiterate, or glorifying ghetto culture through record deals and Hollywood movies, it's all a biggie-sized McBullshit burger. That girl is a hoe, that child is retarded, and that hoodlum is going to end up in prison or dead by the time they're 25. Why don't you tell them that instead, and then maybe they won't do the bad thing? Like when your doctor tells you, hey, you got high blood pressure, and then you're like, oh, okay, cool, thanks. No, instead of that, tell me, hey, your heart's exploding. Oh, okay, well, then I'll do something about it. Instead, everything has degenerated to the point where preteen girls dream of being OF models and preteen boys dream of shooting their enemies in the face. I'm not laying the blame of women upon black people, by the way. I'm continuing that as a parallel story to remind everyone that it's not about black culture, it's about bad culture. The bad culture of hookers isn't about black people, yet it's still bad. And the first step to fixing the problem is admitting it. Everyone has heard this, and everyone knows that it's true. It's obviously true. No one's going to fix it for you, and even if they did, if you don't recognize the problem, you will simply recreate it. People are finally being vocal about a lot of negative aspects of society, though they are still too afraid to be honest about women for some reason. So hopefully, by the time Karmelo gets out, there will be some positive change for the country. And hopefully there will be some positive change in Karmelo, though I don't trust the prison system to ever do that, so I guess that's just up to him. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed, please do the YouTube things.